So I guess give us a 60-second introduction of who you are,
Yeah.
what's your purpose, what are you doing? And before that, I met you because I was curious about volleyball teams doing 15 per team. I'm like, hey, what
Yeah.
do you think about this crazy idea that no one else wants to do? And you were the first coach that was like, there's some upsides here, here, and here. I was like, no one else even comes up with ideas. So you're a volleyball coach. Now, what else? What else about you in a 60-second summary?
Yeah. My name's Alejandro De Mendoza. Online and social media, I'm called the Volleyball Coach. That's my social media handle on Instagram, Twitter, uh, pretty much on every social media platform like TikTok. I coach volleyball. I've been doing it for the last 12 years locally at a club here in Irvine, California. So that's kind of where I started after playing Division One volleyball. I decided to get into coaching pretty much immediately after when I was done playing in the South Carolina. I kind of just jumped right into it. A friend gave me a job, and I really fell in love with coaching and helping kids. There was a big satisfaction early on in my career where after my first season, I still have the text messages saved on my phone of players thanking me for the effort I put in and how much I impacted their lives. And that felt really good, to be honest, getting that from these freshman girls who reached out and said, man, you did a lot for me. And I really appreciate everything you do. And I hope you continue to coach. And, we can really tell that you really enjoy this and you're really great. And that felt really good, So I continued down that path. Eventually now, last 4 years, I've been the club director. So I got promoted within my club. And now I'm overseeing operations. I'm overseeing 30 something teams, 50 something coaches, about 500 plus families a year that now I'm kind of overseeing the operation. And, I've worked my way up from coaching some high level teams like our 18 ones and 14 ones at my club. And I just kept on moving up the ranks and now I'm a club director.
That's awesome. Do you have a formal degree from anywhere?
Nope. I
That's
did not.
awesome.
I do not have a formal degree. I played Division One, and my last year I decided to step away. I had some disagreements with the head coach. When obviously looking back, it was all me, just ego, just a young kid who didn't know, who thought better than others, and that's what it was. I was just young, and I decided to step away, come back home, having no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I was just lucky enough to a friend of mine to ask me if I wanted to coach this freshman team at a high school. And I'm like, I need money. I need to pay some bills living at home. I got to do something. And, it kind of just fell onto my lap and I made it into a career.
That's awesome. And that's the club? You were working with the club then? Cool. Yeah, I dropped out of school in ninth grade.
No way.
So, yeah, dropped out of school. Well, the first day of 10th grade, I guess, I dropped out of school because my hair was too long. Funny, right? No, big deal.
No.
Um, Dropped out of school, started working as a mechanic, and then shortly after that, I was like, the mechanic stuff was just too easy for me. I wanted to get
Mm.
I wanted to do something more. And by the time I was 18, master mechanic, master certification, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Found another job doing machine shop stuff. Then I met a guy, and he's like, "Have you ever thought about going to school?" It's like, no, but I was like, that's interesting because like, what's more complex than a car? It's like the human brain. I've always been fascinated with the human brain. My brother's a PhD psychologist, so I always loved reading his textbooks, which is weird, right? Like I didn't do well in school, in high school, but then I liked reading textbooks. Pretty strange. And then I realized that I was like, yeah, I want to go into neurosurgery and took a bunch of credits, ended up taking like 187 credit hours. And so I ended up three different degrees, switching majors too many times, paying a lot of out of state tuition. So every time, and whenever I was in college, people were like, oh, like it must have been really good for you. I'm like, no, it wasn't. The constructs of a college, I feel like didn't work well for me. I was going to drop out
Mm.
my last semester. Then my wife's like, no, like you're almost done. Just get it. It's like, okay. And so people are always like, oh, I need to go to college. I'm like, I don't think you do. Like, I probably learned about 5% of everything I know from college. The other 95% is because I learned outside of college. So all these people that are like, you have to go to school, you have to have formal education. It's like, or you put the time in and start learning right away, like real world application stuff, not theory and what should we and shouldn't we
Yeah.
do based on not really working with real world populations.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some professions you have to go to school for, like the lawyers, the doctors, the
Yeah,
engineers. I 100% think like that is the traditional, formal education. I think, you want to make sure whoever's operating on you on the table, like they know, like they had some training and there's been some certification process to make sure they're qualified. But there's a lot of things that I don't think school's good for. I feel like a lot of kids go into debt, a lot of debt, and it's not easy. Like I have my own business, my own LLC. I created it. I live here in Southern California. It worked out well for me. Kind of the entrepreneurial route and made my own business and made my own way. And it's because something I was passionate about, something I really loved, and that's a viable option, right? I think they say like 90% of the businesses in the United States are small businesses. So there's a lot of people out there making their own way, and a lot of times it's not what they learned in school.
yeah. So what's the difference between your personal business and the club coaching? Is there a crossover or is it different?
There's not really that much crossover. I started my business back in 2023. So
Okay.
I do so that's for like my private training, my social media. That's when I really started getting into social media, start posting stuff. Was back in 2023, beginning of 2024, and I was just doing a lot of private training, a lot of one-on-one, and I just thought it'd be better to like kind of formalize it, put it under an LLC, S corp, and really just get a little bit more structure. As that made more sense for me on the financial side of things, because it was being a lot more successful. I was being a lot more successful at it. I was getting a lot of clients from it. And that I thought benefited me a lot. On the club side of things, that's a little bit of different, just like the coaching, the teams. When I first started off, I was coaching a team. I was coaching our like 15 threes when I started out, and I just kind of worked my way up, was successful with some teams, and eventually was one of our top coaches. And now I've been there. It's crazy to say I've been there 12 years, which I think is
That's
really weird
awesome.
now. I don't know. I'm a really loyal guy, and I kind of like to stay in one place. But yeah, I've been there, one company, 12 years. I feel like you don't hear about that a lot anymore.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations. 12 years. Most people don't last places longer than a year or two. So
Yeah,
that's
I feel
awesome to
I,
hear.
I, I feel like I'm seeing that a lot. Maybe more on the corporate side of things, where 1 or 2 years you just hop to another company, 1 or 2 years you hop to another company, and just see them moving around.
That's what one of my friends told me. He's like, in the corporate world, you have to hop around because that's the only way you get pay increases. So it's like, yeah, I guess that makes sense because it's like, oh, I can work here for 40 something an hour, or I can move over to this job and that can be 45 starting off. And then I can grow to 48 and then I can switch from that job to another job and make 50. And then, yeah, it's pretty wild. So, your personal training, your business, is
Hmm.
that personal training or is that volleyball training?
Volleyball training, just
Okay.
one-on-one
So
private lessons.
it's all volleyball stuff.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah,
I didn't
everything's
know
just
for sure.
that one-on-one training. Positions, a lot of liberos and setters. Like I would say, like 80% of my clients are liberos and setters, just because I don't know. They're the ones who always seem to want more reps and get extra attention.
Why does everyone think the librero is so special? Everyone I talk to that knows nothing about volleyball, they're like, that person's special. I'm like, what do they do? And they're like, I don't know what their name. It's something libero, librero. I don't know what it is, but that person's like, that's the person who makes the team. You being a coach,
Yeah,
do you think that? Because I see like everyone kind of playing their own. Like you need the team.
yeah. No, in my opinion, first off, volleyball is the ultimate team sport. In basketball, one guy can score 50. You can just go
Yeah.
off and just carry the team. Volleyball doesn't work that way. There has to have three contacts, can't have consecutive contacts in a row before the ball goes in net. There's systems involved where there's blocking and defense. Like there's so much that goes around that. Everyone has to be doing their role to make it work. So to me, volleyball is like the ultimate team sport. Like if you're
Which is
lacking, go ahead.
crazy because the players have to know all like their positions, and then you as the coach are like, how many subs can I have? So it's like strategy on both sides. Like most of the time it's like football, right? Football players do their thing, they know what's going on. Coach has a little bit of time to like, okay, well let's do this play. Like I feel like volleyball coaches, you're in it the whole time, like nonstop.
Yeah. We only get, both sides only get two timeouts per set. So the system, has to be really ingrained into the players, and they have to have an understanding of, what we're trying to accomplish. And because you only get a couple moments to really fix things or adjust things tactically. So you have to train them, in the system that you want them to run offensive and defensively. What is it supposed to do? You have to really make sure they understand their responsibilities and their job in certain situations. And because again, you only get a couple timeouts to, try to adjust things. It's, in my opinion, really hard to yell at kids in the middle of the game. Hey, you have to go this way. Oh, make sure you move. It's not easy. It's tough, especially these big convention centers where it's super loud. It's not an easy thing to do. So all that comes in practice. You got to really make sure that you do a really good job explaining and teaching the system, and they got to know it.
So why does everyone think the libreros are so special? Is it because they wear a different jersey?
Just because, that's pretty much it. It's because they wear a different jersey. Absolutely. It is an important position. Me personally, I don't think it's the most important. I think the outside hitters are the two most important positions, just kind of where volleyball is gone right now. I think when you get to like the highest levels, you can argue the opposite's the most important position. When we're talking about like the national. Me, I was an outside hitter.
Okay. So is there some bias there?
A little, absolutely. My reasoning is, the outsides, they just do the most. They have to be the most well-rounded. They play usually all the way around. They are involved in passing, serving, hitting, blocking. They're just involved in a lot. So they're a really, in my opinion, really crucial position that really determine the success, right? Like if things aren't going well, they're usually an outlet, in hitting. So they're just involved in so much that it's hard to discount them and not see their importance. Liberos, I think, is absolutely important. Having a good libero obviously will help, but then you have the setters who are running the offense, right? Who make the decisions of who gets to hit the ball, which is also really key and important. So there's again, there are a lot of positions that are important, but I think the outsides, in my opinion, are the most important if I had to rank them all.
Okay. We were talking about a little bit about the theories of, education and what people learn to do, and then like the real world executions. What I've seen from some of the coaches I've worked with is everything. I haven't seen any coaches that talk about theory. It's all real world application because they played it, which then leads to the mindset of let's do more stuff. The only way to be a club to make these kids better is we're going to kill these kids for 2 hours straight. Like we have to drill. Do you see can you take us back on some theory if there is some theory behind any of those concepts, or any real world applications that you think that are like overdone, like killing kids on drills?
Yeah, I don't know. I think something like just motor learning and just like a really basic concept that a lot of people I think know about is the difference between blocked and random, right? Training. Mm-hmm. Block training is like there's like a line of kids and a coach is hitting a ball and they get one pass and then they go back in line. It's very structured, right? Just single skill. There's no randomness to it. While the random training would the other side of the scale would be just 6-on-6 the game, right? They're just playing the game, right? There's so much variability. There's 6 girls on each side or boys on each side, and there's just the ultimate randomness, right? You don't know what's going to happen. Someone might mishit it. There might be a bad set. Someone's not in the right position. There's just a lot of randomness. So trying to find that balance, right? Because there's a lot of studies that block training is beneficial for skill acquisition to a point, right? And then you get to this plateau really quick. But the random training long term, right, is going to be really beneficial too, right? Because you got to be able to play the game. So understanding that there's a balance between the two and I'm not saying don't do the block training. I'm personally not huge on like single skill focus. I like try to incorporate a lot of skills all at once. Like if we're going to work on defense, let's add a setter, right? If we're going to do We're going to work on setting. Let's add a hitter. Like you want to make it as close to the game as possible, right? You want to make sure that whatever you're doing represents what they're actually going to do in a game.
Yeah.
Right. So this idea of like piecing it together, like if I just work on passing only, and then I do a drill that only works on setting, and then I drill that only works on hitting, and then the hope is like, okay, it's all going to come together. But it
Do you
doesn't
work
always
with
work that way.
athletes for a full year or just during season?
For like the club or the private training?
I guess both. Because
No,
like the club that I was working with, like helping some of the coaches out, they just do in-season training. So they're trying to do skill development, like adding new skills in the middle of season. So that just seems very challenging to do. It's like you need your off-season training, you need your in-season like work, but
yeah, it's tough because in the club season, like if we're talking about high school athletes, for example, from high school athletes from like August to November, they're in their high school season, right?
yeah.
So they're off playing for their high school. And then the club season for high school is December to June, like late June, right? So they might be learning a certain system. They might be learning their cues might be different for, how they want them to pass or how they want them to set, or the offense, what they do at the high school might be completely different than when they go to club. So a lot of that, especially in the beginning year of the club season, you're just trying to get them used to your system, the language you use. How are we going to do things for the next 6-7 months?
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, with that seems like a big issue with all sports. You have club and then public school. And they're always trying to fight back and forth. Like clubs don't want to deal with public schools because they don't think they're good. Public schools are like, I have these kids, 5 days a week. I can work with them for 2 hours a day every single day. The club coach is trying to take my kids from me. And they're doing more stuff. Now they're getting injured because like they're both getting upset with each other. Me being a strength and conditioning coach, I don't have to deal with that at all because I'm like, kids or athletes are coming to me. And if they are super stressed out and they're a runner or a volleyball kid or basketball, whatever they play, it's like, you're too mentally fatigued. We're going to spend the next 30 minutes doing breath work. And then you're going to go home. And then the parents freak out because they're like, why didn't my kid do a hard workout? Because they can't. They shouldn't be doing it. And then the next time they get to a match or a competition or whatever it may be, they're like, oh, they performed so much better. Yeah, because I gave the kid 30 minutes of just calming down. He's a straight A or she's a straight A student. She has 3 different sports she's involved in. She's going to club and she's going to public school and she's coming to me. That's too much. Like the only time she can stop is here. And it's hard because a lot of the type A kids are like, they want to do more, but then they perform better.
Here in California, we have like pretty much like rules where like if you're in the middle of your high school season, you're not supposed to be doing anything club, right? So like I think we do a really good job of like when they're in the high school season, we check up on them and whatever, but like there's no training. They don't come to us for training or anything like that. They're in the high school season. When you're done, they'll come back, right? And then we'll start during the club season. Maybe they'll take like a week or 2 off. I usually recommend that. A lot of kids don't. Like you said, type A, they just want to get right back in the gym, do some training, and just get ready for the club season. But actually, the big thing talking about that I see the overlap is the growth here in California of beach volleyball. So now it's a high school sport here in California.
Oh, I love sand volleyball. That's my go-to. So indoor is like a whole new thing.
Yeah,
2s on 2s, that's my jam.
But what we're coming into now is these girls at my club, they play beach volleyball for their school, and that's a spring sport, which is right in the middle of the club season. So they're spending multiple days of practice in the sand. Then they run on over to club practice and then have a full club practice. And then that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing definitely more injuries, a lot more fatigue because they're literally trying to play 2 sports at the same time, and they both involve jumping. It's that's what I always tell people. Like, if you have the time, great. But like, if you're really serious about indoor, I'd really try to manage how much beach you're playing because it could really get into a lot.
It's definitely different too. I know kind of with sand and indoor, a lot of people think, like running, so simple, right? If I run on the sand, it's harder, so I should get better. It's like, just because it's harder doesn't mean it's affecting how much propulsion you have in your foot. So doing the same thing with jumps, if you're jumping in the sand, you have a lot more give. So you're becoming stronger, but not more powerful because you have more like give. And I think that gets overlooked a lot. Going back a little bit, so here, I know some of the issues are the kids are either running track or playing soccer while going to club volleyball. So there's like two sports not doing the same thing, but they're still doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah. It's the fatigue, they're doing a lot of extra stuff, and it's tough. You have conflicting times. And, I think at one point, probably when we were kids, the multi-sport athlete was, a really big deal. And I think there's a lot of benefits of it because you're using different muscle groups in a different way, which definitely can lead to less injury prevention. But I'm still seeing a lot of fatigue, from a lot of athletes who are playing multiple sports all at once.
Yeah. Whenever you have to break down something that, like, you notice kids are coming to you from a public school or from a different coach and they're coming to you, do you see a reoccurring theme that it's like just a huge mistake that keeps getting repeated over and over again from different coaches because they heard bad information somewhere?
When I was younger, I was definitely in the mindset of, or like the dogma of, like, my way is the only way. I know better than everyone else, The
Dunning-Kruger effect.
Where no, this is the way you should do this skill. No, it has to be done this way. This is how the highest level of players in the world do it. But as I've gotten older, I've definitely accepted more of, like, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. There's a lot of coaches who are very, very successful, maybe doing things the way I wouldn't do it, but they're still very successful at it,
Yeah.
And I'm definitely a lot more open-minded. And I think I kind of get to more of not like the skill, but more of like the principles, right? I think at the end of the day, certain principles are the same. And I kind of just stay focused on that because maybe I coach a kid from a different club and they want their kid to do it a certain way. And I don't want to be contradicting that, because then that's going to create issues for the kid, right? If they go back like, whoa, I went to this guy and he told me to do it like this. You know what I mean? And I talk to players about that because I think that's an important life skill. The example I always use is like, if you're working at Starbucks and they teach you the Starbucks way of how to make coffee, and then you go to Coffee Bean, you go to a different place and they try to teach you how to do it their way, right? Or this is how we want you to make coffee. And you're like, whoa. I like the way Starbucks did it. I'm just going to do it the way I was taught, previously, because I'm more comfortable with that. That's not good. I don't think that's teaching kids a good lesson, right? Like, that's how you get fired. Like, I think there has to be a balance where, like, hey, if your boss or is someone to tell you, hey, this is how I'd like things to be done, I think I think you have to listen to that. Like, you might not agree with them, but, like, at the end of the day, they're the ones deciding playing time. They're the ones deciding if you get a raise. That's just the reality of life. I think I had a teammate in college who pulled me aside because I was very combative. I was very, again, just a lot of ego of just like, I like doing things my way, or like, this is how I was successful. And he pulled me aside one time and he's like, dude, he doesn't care what you think. Just say, yes, coach, you're right, and then move on. Dude, best life advice I've ever gotten. I'm serious. Like, one of the best, like, just, it's so powerful just telling someone, you know what, you're right. Everyone, who doesn't want to hear that, right? Yeah. And I teach that to a lot of players, like, man, you might be right, but, like, just say, yes, coach, I'll do it that way next time, and then move on. Because from there, there's the conversation's done. Like, you move on. It's like, oh, okay, sure. Oh, sweet, thanks. And then you just move on. I think that's a huge lesson. Just like teaching, it's like especially when you're an employee, right? Like, you might not agree with your boss. Like, hey, I want you to do this way, but, like, I think it's really important for people to learn. Like, you know what? you're right. I'll get it done this way.
Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of thinking, I guess some of the coaches I've seen, they lean really heavily on like the novel things that are going, right? Like I know a coach that loves the Normatec boots. Like he puts all of his kids in the Normatec boots. I'm like, parents come to me and they're like, "What do you think about the Normatec boots?" I'm like, I start doing calf raises in front of them. I'm like, I'm doing what the Normatec boots are doing right now. They're like, but those are supposed to promote recovery. I'm like, if you have a type A personality kid, a runner, a volleyball, whoever it is, whatever sport they're in, and they have to be moving, putting them in Normatec boots are probably good because you're making them stop.
Yeah.
For the average person, the average athlete that's competitive, it's not really doing anything for them. It's not a crazy modality where I want all my kids to spend 20 minutes in Normatec boots every single day or using a massage gun every single day before and after. It's like if you have to use modalities like that to correct all your muscular imbalances, we need to address the root cause of the muscular imbalance so you don't have to use those things, those devices. So that's what I was thinking of. Like,
What actually, I'm curious to talk about what do you think about cold plunge? What are your thoughts on that?
actual cold plunge versus cryo, I prefer cold plunge being in the water. If you get into cold plunge for sports recovery, in the sense that it makes sense. So, for example, if you playing volleyball, right, you might have what 2 full days of games, and there's like 4 games a day.
Yeah.
Cold plunge during those games beneficial. Like your kids played back to back sports or back to back matches. Cold plunge in the middle, so your body can get rid of some of the stressors, so they can play more during your beginning to middle phases. Like if you're just doing a match or you're doing workouts, don't do cold plunges. Like only use cold plunges to mitigate the inflammatory responses so you can keep playing harder. But if we get rid of those inflammatory pathways by cold plunging after a hard workout, we blunted all the stressors for our body to adapt to. So I look at it as if you want to do it for your mental performance, cool. Like if you want to jump, in a cold plunge first thing in the morning because it mentally regulates what you're doing, great. If you're doing it because you did a hard workout and you're taking Advil and then jumping in a cold plunge to stop the pain, you shouldn't be doing that. So that's my viewpoint.
All right, fair enough. I hated that as an athlete. Post practice, going into the ice bath. Oh,
Heat is better than ice.
yeah.
So athletes come to me all the time like, oh, I do cold plunges after workouts. I'm like, don't. Get in a warm bath, get in a hot tub, something that's going to stimulate muscle recovery. And people are like, but the cold plunge is hard. It's supposed to be good for you. I'm like, Kel tastes like crap and it's supposed to be good for you, right? Whenever you're juicing it, you're not getting a lot of benefits from it because you're just getting a bunch of sugar. So it's the conventional wisdom of this thing is hard or tastes disgusting, therefore it must be good for me, isn't always accurate.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I have told kids multiple times, like, if you're doing a hard workout, say you went to the weight room and you're a little fatigued, go take like a 20-minute hot bath, like hot enough to where you're going to start sweating from it and you're going to get more, you're allowing blood to flow, you're allowing the inflammatory pathways to happen, but you're getting vasodilation. So you're allowing more of the bad stuff to leave, get to your lungs, get flushed out. So you're allowing that process to happen. Whenever you're in a cold plunge, you're vasoconstricting, and you're making things feel better. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
No, 100%. No, I appreciate it because I definitely again talking about like just ice in the cold plunge. Like before, it used to be very much like you get hurt, you roll an ankle, you ice. But now I'm hearing like the opposite. Like ice is a great pain manager. Like it helps with like, managing the pain. But, if you want to come back, I see a lot of now, not strength and conditioning guys, but like athletic trainers, they avoid the ice now. Now it's just like keeping it moving. You don't want it to, let the swelling do what it needs to do. Cause I hear it just slows down that process.
Yep. If That's good that that's happening in California. A lot of the athletic trainers I've familiar with in Texas, it's like, yeah, ice, rise, right?
Nah.
Raise, elevate, compress,
Yeah.
or sorry, rest, elevate, or ice, compress, and elevate.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. And it's like, that's not effective. The guy who came
Yeah.
out with that principle in the 1980s, I think in 2013 came out and said like, don't follow what I said. That was wrong.
Yeah.
But
No,
that
we're
has,
definitely getting away from that. From the athletic trainers I speak of, like there's just a lot of studies on, again, ice is, if you're in a lot of pain,
yeah.
ice will definitely help with that, the pain management, but it's not going to help with the recovery,
Yeah.
right? Like the big thing now,
You just
especially
pop
like,
your Achilles tendon, throw some ice pack on it until you can start feeling a little bit better, right? And
yeah.
then,
And then, yeah, just go, and then try to go into PT as much possible. Like we always say, like a boot is awful. Like if you sprain an ankle, because like you want to keep it moving, you don't want to keep it stiff. Like especially if your goal is to try to get back into playing, like you don't want it in a fixed position, right? You want to be doing the ABCs. You want to be keeping it moving, keeping it loose if you're trying to get back to playing, right? Because then
yeah.
keeping it in a boot or the icing all the time, like that's just restricting everything.
Yep. That's kind of what I was asking, like with the mistakes that I see, stuff like that. Like people that they just get so caught up on there's this new thing I learned.
Mm.
Let's do this new thing as opposed to like whatever it is. It can any sport. Let's do more running drills for volleyball, let's say. Let's do more running drills to get their endurance up. And I'm thinking
Oh,
like
yeah.
what are we doing? Like what energy system are we in while we play volleyball? We're not doing endurance stuff. Like we're not doing the third energy system, right? Without going into too much scientific detail, we're not going into the third energy system. We're between like 10 to 20 seconds of energy systems, and then we rest for like 5 seconds. Then we get back into it for 5 seconds, and we rest for 5 seconds. So the best way to get endurance is to do more of that, not go train for a marathon for volleyball. That's never going to
Yeah.
benefit you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one that you brought up. Was the I see that still a lot is like the running for punishments or just
Oh yeah.
punishments in general. Like, man, like get on the line, the suicides, and just like, man, they've done a lot of studies on negative reinforcement and positive reinforcement, and especially if you're playing club and you're coaching club, you have a limited amount of time with these athletes. You're not. It's not like high school where you're practicing every day, or college you're practicing every day. Like if you're wasting your time, running, making them run every time they make a mistake, oh man, you're not getting better at volleyball, right? The only
I
way to
asked
get
my
better at volleyball is by playing volleyball.
yeah. That's what some of the coaches I work with are like, what can they do to get better at volleyball? I'm like, there are things you can do.
Yeah,
Strength training, mobility work. There's some things you can do to get better. There's going to be correlations of like if you're doing snatches, you're probably going to jump higher. And if anything, you can use like a snatch or a squat or any of the strength training things to determine like, are you getting stronger and is your jump getting higher? If so, cool, we have objective data now. But I was asking my brother, who's a PhD in psychology and has been doing that for 10 years now and does research. I was like, I know from all the stuff I've learned, positive reinforcement's like the way to like get behavior change to really take place. But how like is it really that significant? Because sometimes it's easier just to do like negative punishment. It's easier to take something away and then punish them or add something, and like it's easier to do some of the other stuff so the kids can learn. And he's like, it's significantly better. Not like science significant, but like if you want behaviors to change, positive reinforcement, hands down, is always going to be better than any other form of behavioral change
yeah,
modality.
especially long term. And if that's what you're really looking for is for long term change, it's positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement, I will say this, is good for short term change. Like right there in that moment, it is. It definitely helps with that. But again, if that's your only way of motivation is the negative reinforcement, kids are going to tune you out. They will.
Yeah.
They're just going to tune you out. So I think overall, I think you should be, as a coach, your main focus should be positive reinforcement. But if you sprinkle in a little negative reinforcement here and there, I think that's a good balance. I think sometimes like you have to get on them, you have to push them, right? I think there has to be a balance, right? Because they do respond well to it again, but just like you just got to do a little bit, right? It can't be like your only way, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think players like that. I like, wow. Like if you only positive and then you do like a little negative, the players, it's like a shock. It's like, oh, shoot, okay, maybe I should do this, right? Like, I'll focus right now more. Like, man, I've never seen him get mad, or like I've never seen him like yell at us, right? Like, I think, again, I think the impact is more, and you just do just like a little bit. I think there's nothing wrong with showing some emotion and showing that you care, right? I get it just has to be smartly done in very very small doses, right? And if you're overall 99% positive, I think you can get away with that, and I think it'd be really really impactful as a coach.
I think I don't know what made me think about this, but whenever I hear junior high kids cussing, kind of the same thing. Like they every other word's a cuss word, and they're
Mm,
like you don't sound cool, like you don't know how to use it appropriately, and it doesn't sound
mm,
cool, and you lost all the effectiveness because there's no shock value. So whenever you have someone that never cusses and then they like drop a bomb, and you're like,
yeah. Whoa.
what's going on? I think like what
Exactly.
you're saying is a great like I think those two things parallel very well. Like if you have if you're always doing positive reinforcement, they're going to learn long term because long term
Yes.
development is for me.
Hmm.
I look at athletes like I don't care if my athlete's 13 or they're 50. How do I get them to the Olympics? I know it's not realistic, but
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, how do I get them to, like, that's where my brain goes. What can I do for the next 20 years to get them to the Olympics? And looking at the parallels of that, I think, like, yeah, sometimes having that shock factor of, like, oh, hold on, like, we were messing around. Like, we need to focus now.
Yeah. There's a
I like
balance.
it.
There's a good balance, and I think every coach should find what works best for them and fits their personality. But just with the understanding that if you want long-term behavioral changes, positive reinforcement, right? That's going to be your main driver. That's going to be your daily. And then again, I think if you're intelligent, when to use negative reinforcement, for a short-term change, like right there in that moment, I think that can be a really good balance. But again, if your only mode of motivation is negative, they're gonna tune you out. I've done
Yeah.
it as an athlete. I've been yelled at all day, every day, dude. Eventually, you're just thinking in your head like, dude, f this guy, man, dude. What is he talking? Like again? Oh my god. That's what it comes down to. Because I was an athlete. Like I've been through that. I have coaches on one spectrum and the other. Doesn't matter what they know. It's just how they're saying it matters, and how they're delivering the message matters. Do you want them to listen or not?
I think that's truly a good indicator of who's a good coach. Like going from the average coach who just doesn't learn, doesn't do new things, they just kind of do whatever, to an exceptional, or an advanced level coach is like you said, you've been doing this for 12 years at the club. Clearly you've learned, like you said, a lot of things. Like you've learned you were one way, you thought that was the right way. Then over time you start realizing like maybe my ways aren't the right things to do. So with that, what do you see in athletes that take them from average to advanced level? Is it a personality thing, like a psychological thing? Is it a specific drill? Like, is there a thing that you notice, like, if kids start doing this one thing, they just become like a different person?
That's a good question.
Because I see, people ask me, and they're like, what's something you can't live without? I'm like, I love working out. So for me, I don't think of working out as a hard thing where some people do. So I can just live with the consistency. And I feel like with a lot of athletes, it's like, stop trying to push for the new hard stuff, stay consistent. And that's what makes athletes, I think, just like time makes them more advanced. Like you can't like some kids just come to you and they're just
Yeah,
great athletes, like hands down. Like they're how is
they
this
came to you
14
that
year
way.
old playing? better than a 16-year-old.
Yeah, they just
So
gamed you that way.
yeah,
You know, I would have to say removing the exceptional, just the freaks, right? Who are just God given and they just come in jumping out of the gym and are super strong. I think habits.
get rid of the Bo Jacksons.
Yeah, the Bo Jackson. If we're talking about everyone else, I think it just goes down to the habits. You know, a lot of really small habits that add up over time and being really consistent. Sleep. I think that's super. It's tough with a lot of these kids' course loads, man. A lot of them I work with, they're taking crazy course loads, and they're just up so late, doing homework or studying for tests, and I don't think they realize how much that impacts their athletic performance or recovery. Is just, I think, sleep. Like if you look into the studies of sleep, it kind of gets really scary when you don't get enough. Like it's pretty scary stuff, you know.
It's so hard because whenever you're a kid, I always say whenever like up until about 20 years of age, you can get away with a lot of stuff and you don't see the negative impacts because you're like, I feel normal, even though I got 3 hours of sleep. Like, what's normal mean? You know, like, what are these, what are you basing that on? You feel normal as if you slept for 8 hours? Well, I have friends and social life, so there's like other psychological factors where they don't realize what's going on. And then whenever you're like 21 to 25, you start seeing like a lot of breakdown. And that's what I tell people all the time. Like, Olympians go to the Olympics because they're better at compensating than other people. And so it becomes this person, like baseball, throwing all day long, junior high, high school. Then you go to college, you're throwing some more. Now you lose a lot of people in college because they get injured more.
Yeah.
Then you want to go to, minor leagues, more injuries. It's like whoever can compensate better makes it to more advanced levels and athletic ability too. But then it's like the sleep thing is way, way, way underrated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's how you recover. That's how you grow, not the
Yeah.
drill.
Yeah. That's where the muscles growth happens, is the sleep. So I would say sleep is a big one. More students of the game, where here in the United States, you might not get a lot of opportunities to, see on TV, high level volleyball, where like I grew up as a basketball player. I played my really early childhood and into high school, playing basketball. And, from a really young age, I saw Shaq and Kobe live. On the TV, I was watching the NBA, and what do all kids do? They copy, they emulate, right? They try to do the moves like Allen Iverson or something. I want to cross over like him, so I have these like role models as far as movement and what it should look like at the highest level. And I think a lot of kids don't have that. Obviously now with TV, with the internet and live streaming, like if you want to see what the top leagues are, like the Italian league is amazing. The Japanese has a great league, and the Polish league for the men's side. The Turkish league for the women's side is also really good. But now, like, you have the opportunity. If you go online, I always tell kids, dude, 5-10 minutes every day, just watch a little good volleyball. Just watch it. Pick your position and just pay attention. How do they move? How do they play? How do they carry themselves? How are they doing some high level stuff? I think that's huge. I think just that like small little habit over time will be, I think, really impactful. So being a student of the game, sleeping, I think, again, like we talked about it, I think that's like low hanging fruit, in my opinion, to really try to see some really big games is being that consistent sleep, right? Going to sleep and waking up at a consistent time. Again, especially like I said, the course load some of these kids are taking, it's unrealistic, to be honest, sometimes, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. That's what I've noticed, like with some of the parents, like that's probably the last question I want to ask you. Like, how do you deal with, there's you and the athlete, like you, the coach, so coach to athlete, there's athlete to parent, and then there's coach to athlete, coach to parent. How do you dictate what happens whenever a parent comes to you and they're like, I want my kid to do all the stuff. I have them in this sport. I have them in piano lessons. They're doing a full course load, like you're saying, and we're doing this. How do you talk to those parents? Like, how do you say, like, if they come to me, we're probably not going to do as much craziness, or I'm going to tell you, like, hey, make sure they're getting enough sleep. Like, how does that conversation go with you as the coach to the parent?
I think it first starts with like the relationship you have with that kid and the parent. I think if you develop a really good relationship with them, they're going to be more willing to listen to you. But if like off rip, someone just came up to me and it's like our first time together, I'm not gonna tell them how to raise their kid, because they're not gonna listen to me, because we don't have that relationship. We haven't established trust. Just how you have to establish trust with the kid, you got to establish trust with the parent. I think that only happens over time. I think over time, if they trust you and they believe in you, they realize, oh, they're looking out for my kid, or they want what's best. I think they're going to be more open and willing to listen to you. But if you don't have that trust, you can't really even broach that topic. That's just my opinion. Because no matter what you say, they're not going to listen. They have their way of how they want to raise a kid, which is their right. It's their kid. How they choose to raise their kid, that's on them. But if you develop trust, and unfortunately trust built over time, I wish it was quick. I wish I could build trust really, really fast, but it takes some time. I wish it's a fast process, but it's slow. You build trust brick by brick, and maybe they come to you about some stuff and you give your opinion, and over time maybe they see the benefits of some of the things that you've told them to, and then they're more willing to listen to you, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it can backfire. You can say something, and then the one time they do it, it doesn't go well, and then they just never trust you again about it. So it's fragile. It's very, very fragile.
That's a good way to put it. Definitely, it's building trust is a very complex thing. It's like, yeah, I've done all this with the kid, and the kid's doing better, but then they broke their ankle because of a freak accident.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, now I can't trust you. It's like, well, I didn't do that, but I see why you're blaming me, because I'm the one responsible. I'll take ownership of the situation, even though it's not on me. Well, cool.
Yeah, they think like, strength and conditioning is like a bulletproof. Like, if I do this, I'll never get hurt. What? Why did my kid get hurt and injured?
Yeah. It's like,
oh, for real?
They're playing a sport. And that's no one ever thinks no kid, no athlete, no coach thinks that their kids are going to be the ones to get hurt. And then most of the time they don't, right? Like, most of the time you're not going to have a broken elbow, broken arm. And then it's like, then you do. And then you do again. And then you're in it for 12 years like you. And it's like, yeah, last month I saw this happen. Well, 3 weeks ago
last night I saw a kid break her ankle landing on a kid. I literally saw that. Dude, my girlfriend also coaches volleyball. First practice of the season for club. She coaches at my club. Best player got hurt, broke her ankle, landed on someone else. The next practice, someone hurts her knee. It's just like, just sometimes it's sports. It's the price we pay to play sports. Like, injuries are going to happen. It's a part of sports. We can't avoid it. It sometimes comes at really unfortunate times. Years ago, I coached at a high school, and one of our best players, a senior, midway through the season, tore an ACL, middle of the game.
Oh,
I felt for her so bad. Senior year, we were like, great. The team was great, finally coming together, and just there goes her knee. Yeah. That sucked. And it's just, what can you do? It's just sports.
Yeah, there's ways to mitigate the potential of injury, but you can't eliminate it. It's like, if a kid comes to you and they have a lot of knees caving in, valgus issues, and you can correct that, you can probably reduce the likelihood of ACL ruptures in a female.
Yeah,
doesn't mean it's eliminated. Yeah,
it's a percent. People don't need to realize that it's a percentage, right? But there's always that chance.
Yeah,
always, and that's just the reality of it.
Yeah. Well, cool. Few things. Do you have any recommendations of people you think would be cool to see on this podcast?
Recommendations. I think I'll just continuing to, I would say, like, just not only like local high school like coaches, because I think everyone brings something. Again, I'm definitely now more in the mindset of like there's multiple ways to skin a cat. I use that phrase a lot. I think there's a lot of people who can bring some kind of value, right? So I think personally I think local people, high school coaches, the club coaches in your area, but like you kind of reached out to me, like there's a lot of great high school coaches and club coaches throughout the United States that I think will be really bring a lot of real value. Like I have my friend who coaches here in Modern Day, which is, I don't know if you know this, but Modern Day is like the best girls volleyball program in the country. High school, you should check them out. Dan Odell. You should probably hit them up. But there's a lot of people I think who could bring a ton of value and been really, really successful at what they've done.
Okay. Could you connect us?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So what are you working on right now? Business, club volleyball? Is that your main things?
Yeah, that's kind of like my main thing right now. I might start to dabble in like online training, just because like a lot of people have been reaching out to me from across the U.S. about training online or something, and because they can't come to California so that been like kind of exploring that. I've been putting that off, but I've been reached out a lot pretty often recently about it, so I might start doing that just to try to have a bigger reach with kids.
That's cool. I love the online stuff. I know parents all the time are like, how can you work with my kid online? I'm like, have you ever gone to a biomechanics lab? They're like, no. I'm like, they spend 2 weeks looking at a video of someone doing a squat. So if I do that in real time, I can't spend 2 weeks looking at someone squat in slow motion. I can do it in video. They're like, oh, I never thought about that. I'm like, yeah, that's the cool thing about online. If I get someone to video something, I can scroll through like slow motion time to see like, oh, they're moving these joints in this way and that's wrong. We need to address that. So that's cool. Well, cool. Where can people find you? You said at the beginning. Say it one more time.
Yeah, so you can find me, the Volleyball Coach. Really simple. Don't know how I stole that that username, but it was available 3 years ago in 2023. I have no idea how. The Volleyball Coach. It's really simple altogether. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Like I have my own podcast too, the Volleyball Coach podcast. And yeah, absolutely. You can always hit me up if anyone ever has questions. I'm usually responded. Yeah, this guy hit me up, and now we're here on a podcast.
Yep. Well, cool. Well, thanks for joining, and I enjoyed having you on. So
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, Eddie.
Cool.